the lie that went viral, and the real story behind it. The internet was made for a certain kind of headline. It doesn't need to be true. It doesn't need to be verified. It just needs to feel true, to land in that warm corner of the human heart where we want to believe good things happen to good people. That's what tens of thousands of people responded to when a story circulated about a young Filipina tennis star receiving a luxury supercar from her sponsor, then turning it down and asking that the money go to underprivileged athletes instead. It was cinematic. It was perfect. 47,000 likes. Thousands of shares. Comment sections overflowing with pride. None of it happened. The car didn't exist. The press event didn't exist. The Babolat executive in the photo was a hotel manager from Monaco whose LinkedIn photo had been stolen. The article named no location, no witnesses, no date, and got Eala's age wrong. Fact-checkers at Verifiles pulled the whole thing apart in an afternoon. But by then the damage was done. What makes this story worth telling isn't the lie. It's the truth underneath it, because the real story of Alexandra Eala required no embellishment whatsoever. In March 2025, a 19-year-old wild card entry ranked 140th in the world walked onto the courts of the Miami Open. Nobody outside of tennis circles was paying much attention. The draw was brutal. The odds were long. Then she started winning. She beat Madison Keys, ranked 5th in the world. Then she beat Iga Swiatek, a multi-Grand Slam champion ranked 2nd, in one of the most stunning upsets of the entire season. Back-to-back top 10 wins. As a wild card, she reached the semi-finals before falling to Jessica Pegula in a fiercely competitive match. In doing so, she became the first Filipino player in history, male or female, to reach a WTA 1000 semi-final. She broke into the top 100 world rankings, a barrier no Filipino tennis player had ever crossed in the ranking system's 50-year existence. She did it on one of the biggest stages in the sport, against players who had no business losing to a teenager from Manila. The Philippines erupted. People who had never watched a WTA match in their lives learned what a baseline rally was, because one of their own had made it matter. And that's exactly when the machinery started up. Explosive overnight fame doesn't just bring sponsors and well-wishers. It brings something colder. Operations that study emotional psychology the way a predator studies prey. They know which story shapes trigger the sharing instinct. They know that a loving auntie in Cebu will forward a headline to her entire family group chat without pausing to wonder if it's real. Rappler identified at least 5 Facebook pages: Tennis Plus, Tennis Today, Tennis Together, Top Spin Central, and Tennis Triumph, operating as what appeared to be a coordinated network. Different names, different posting schedules, same underlying strategy. Use Eala's name and her fanbase's emotional investment to generate clicks that could be redirected to ad-heavy websites, turning a quiet profit. She wasn't being celebrated. She was being used. False stories multiplied within weeks of Miami. A $45 million Wilson endorsement deal. A private presidential commendation. A multi-million peso donation to young athletes. Each one calibrated perfectly to a specific fantasy. Each one spreading faster than anyone could check it. This is the world that fame deposits you into now, without warning and without asking permission. One morning you're grinding through qualifying rounds, eating pre-match meals alone in airport lounges, doing the invisible work no one celebrates. The next morning, the entire internet has made you a character in stories you never lived. For a 20-year-old who had done nothing except work harder than almost everyone around her, and win, it was a brutal introduction to how the attention economy actually works. The supercar was never real. The tennis was. And the tennis was extraordinary enough. Here's the rewrite of this section. The real story was always better while the fake posts were spreading and the fact-checkers were working overtime. Alexandra Eala was on a tennis court in Dubai, playing the best tennis of her life. In front of a stadium packed with her people. Doing something that needed no embellishment to be extraordinary. Let's be precise about the money because the money tells you everything about what this actually was. The network of pages exploiting Eala's name, Tennis Plus, Tennis Today, Tennis Together, Top Spin Central, Tennis Triumph, was not a passion project run by misguided fans. It was a business generating up to $40,517 a month. every month. Built entirely on a 20-year-old athlete who received not a single peso of it, consented to none of it, and had no idea the machinery existed until journalists started pulling the threads. Rappler's investigative unit spent months documenting how it worked. What they found wasn't chaotic opportunism. It was infrastructure. 2 of the 5 pages launched their first paid Facebook ad campaigns in March 2025, almost exactly when Eala's Miami run put her name on the global map. The ads were simple: a collage of tennis players, text that read, "If you love tennis, press here." The companies behind those early ads were American-registered businesses selling custom-printed t-shirts. They had spotted a gap. Filipino tennis fans, newly energized, hungry for content about their new favorite athlete, and finding almost nothing that spoke directly to them. So the pages filled that gap. They built a real audience. Warm, emotionally invested, full of people who genuinely loved Eala, and then pivoted. They narrowed their focus almost entirely to her. The content grew wilder. Presidential awards. $1 million charity donations. A $45 million endorsement deal. And finally, the Supercar, calibrated so precisely to the emotional frequency of Filipino national pride that 47,000 people shared it before a single person thought to ask whether any of it was true. The images were AI-generated. One showed a bank check made out in Eala's name, designed to trigger the kind of visceral, immediate pride that makes people screenshot before their skepticism can engage. But the numbers on the check were misspelled. The fonts were inconsistent. And the fingers on the human figures were distorted in that telltale way that AI imagery still can't quite hide. Something that looks almost human until you look closely, and then reveals itself as fundamentally wrong. These were not sophisticated fakes. They didn't need to be. Sophistication was never the point. Speed was the point. Emotional charge was the point. Get the post in front of enough people fast enough. And the sharing instinct outruns the skepticism every time. Why it works? The answer isn't complicated, but it is painful. It works because the real story creates an appetite. Watching a 20-year-old Filipina dismantle the world number 2 in Miami, watching her become the first of her country to crack the top 100, watching her stand in a Dubai stadium and speak Tagalog to a crowd that flew from the other side of the planet to be there. All of that creates a love so large and so full of national pride and collective longing that for some people, the real story isn't enough. They want more. They want the supercar. They want the universe to keep rewarding her in ever more spectacular, more shareable ways. And there are people who understand that appetite intimately, who have mapped it and built a revenue model around it, who know that Filipino fans love Eala not just as an athlete but as a symbol of possibility, of representation, of the electric joy of watching someone who looks like you and sounds like you succeed in a space that has historically not made room for people like you. That love is real. That love is beautiful. And that love is being systematically weaponized by operations that see an entire nation's emotional investment as nothing more than a traffic source. Eala herself has navigated all of it with quiet, almost startling dignity. When reporters asked about the fake headlines and the clickbait factories bearing her name, she didn't perform outrage. She said simply, "I don't really pay attention to a lot of negative comments." And when pressed on her mindset amid the noise, she brought the conversation back to the only ground she's ever fully controlled. My day-to-day, I'm still working the same. I'm working just as hard. The work ethic's always been there. That is not the response of someone overwhelmed. That is the response of someone who has, at 20 years old, already understood something most people take decades to learn. The noise is not the story. The court is the story. The work is always the story. And no amount of manufactured virality can touch that. Dubai, February 2026. Leave the fake posts behind. Follow Eala to the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships, a WTA 1000 event, one of the most prestigious stops on tour, where the lights that flood the aviation club at night make everything feel permanent and significant. She arrives ranked 47th in the world. Her year has been extraordinary. A WTA 125 title in Guadalajara, a final in Eastbourne, a steady climb through the rankings, but she has never broken into the top 40. That ceiling is still there, just above her. In the second round, she draws Jasmine Paolini. World number 7. Former Dubai champion. One of the most technically complete players on tour. Not a soft draw. A test of the hardest kind. The kind that answers the question everyone is quietly asking. Is she ready to win at this level? The answer: 6-1, 7-6. A dominant first set. Then a nerve-shredding tiebreak that has the entire crowd holding its breath, ending with Eala's fist punching into the warm Dubai night as the aviation club erupts. Not polite applause, but something closer to a roar. Because the stands are packed with Filipino flags. Filipino voices. Filipino fans who checked flight prices and booked tickets and arranged time off work and flew thousands of miles to be inside that stadium on that night. In her post-match interview, Eala pauses. She looks at the crowd, her crowd, the sea of yellow and blue and waving flags, and switches languages. Kaya para sa inyo lahat ito. This is for all of you. Then she asks, smiling into the microphone, how many of you have been praying for me to win? There are no adequate words for the sound a crowd makes when the person it traveled across the world to see speaks directly to its heart in its own language. 3 days later, after defeating Sarana Sursti 7-5, 6-4, Eala becomes the first Filipino player in the 25-year history of the Dubai tournament to reach the quarterfinals. Another record. Another first. Added to the growing collection that trails her name everywhere she goes. Then, in the player exit area, something happens that the internet, in its best and most human form, cannot resist. A woman in the crowd holds up a handwritten sign. Not designed by a graphic artist. Not printed on professional cardstock. Written by hand in plain English, without irony or self-consciousness. Alex, marry my son please. The video spreads instantly. Eala's reaction, the surprise, the double take, the warm, completely unrehearsed smile, is everything. The kind of moment no PR team could have staged. The kind of thing no AI could generate. Just real life being better than the lie. What Coco Gauff said the quarterfinal against Coco Gauff on February 19 didn't go the way Filipino fans had hoped. Gauff, ranked 4th in the world, a 2-time Grand Slam champion, was simply too formidable on the day. The scoreline 6-2, 6-2 was emphatic. No second-set heroics, no tiebreak revival. Just a hard, clear lesson about the distance that still exists between where Eala is and where the very best currently operate. The kind of lesson that stings and that you carry and that you use. But what happened after the match told a completely different story about what Eala's presence in Dubai had meant. In her post-match interview, Gauff turned to the camera and thanked Alex Eala. Not for the quality of the match. She thanked her for bringing a new demographic to the sport. Pause on that. One of the biggest stars in women's tennis. A Grand Slam champion who understands better than most what it means to carry a community's hopes, publicly credited a 20-year-old Filipina with expanding the audience of professional tennis. With making the sport matter to people who hadn't previously felt represented at this level. With walking into a Dubai stadium and filling it with a passion and an energy that nobody who was there that week will forget. Tennis Channel shared the clip with a simple caption. Coco thanks Alex Eala for bringing a new demographic to the sport. It was not diplomatic flattery. It was acknowledgement of something anyone inside the aviation club could feel with certainty that week. The crowd was different. The atmosphere was different. The stakes felt different. Not just for the players, but for everyone watching in Manila and Cebu and Davao and in Filipino communities across Dubai, London, Toronto, Los Angeles. Eala, asked about playing in front of that kind of energy, chose her words with the careful gratitude of someone who remembers what empty stands feel like. I've not always been a competitor who's been put in night sessions on center court. I've been playing tennis for many years, and I'm also used to playing in front of no crowds. Pause. It just creates an amazing atmosphere. While fake Facebook pages were busy inventing supercars and presidential awards, Coco Gauff was standing in front of a television camera saying, "The real story is already changing the sport. That's the part the clickbait factories cannot touch. It requires something they have never had and cannot acquire. The truth. The numbers that need no embellishment 1 year ago. Alexandra Eala was ranked 139th in the world. As of February 23, 2026, she is ranked 31st. In 12 months, She climbed more than 100 ranking spots. She won her first WTA title in Guadalajara. She reached the final at Eastbourne. She made her US Open main draw debut, the first Filipino player in the Open era to do so. She became the first Filipino to break the top 100, the first to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal, the first to reach the Dubai quarterfinals. She has 6 top 10 wins. She accumulated 205 ranking points in a single week in Dubai, the biggest jump of any player in the top 50 that period, climbing 16 spots in 7 days. No stolen photograph. No fictional press event. No headline calibrated to trigger the sharing instinct before critical thinking has a chance to catch up. Just a 20-year-old woman from Manila who refused to stop working. What she wrote after Dubai after the loss to Goff, Eala went to Instagram and wrote, "3 weeks of fighting with love and pride has come to an end here in Dubai. The competition, the atmosphere, the hospitality, and the full-blown support has made these weeks ones I'll never forget. Not a performance. Not crisis communications managed by image consultants. Not a caption engineered to generate likes, though it certainly did. Just a young woman choosing to frame one of the most remarkable stretches of her career through gratitude rather than disappointment. Choosing love and pride as her lens. She arrived in Dubai ranked 47th. She left ranked 31st. She won 4 matches at one of the most prestigious tournaments on the calendar. She broke records that had stood for 25 years. She made a crowd speak Tagalog at a tennis tournament in the Middle East. She earned the public admiration of a Grand Slam champion. She walked past a handwritten sign asking her to marry a stranger's son and smiled the most genuine smile the internet had seen all week. And then she sat down and wrote about love and pride. The choice every time someone shares an unverified headline claiming Eala received a luxury car, a presidential award, a $45 million endorsement deal. Every time someone reads a story that feels too perfect and hits share before asking a single question, they are not celebrating her. They are sending traffic and money to operations that view her not as a person with a remarkable real story, but as a commodity. Click generator. Raw material for an advertising machine. And in doing so, they are drowning out the actual story. The documented, fact-checked, historically significant story of a young woman climbing faster through the WTA rankings than almost anyone in recent memory. Making history at every major milestone. Building something real one brave shot at a time. That word brave is hers. She used it herself when reflecting on the pressure moments against Paulini. Every time the opportunity arose, I tried my best to be brave and go for my ball. Not fearless. Not invincible. Brave, which means doing it anyway even when every instinct says to play it safe. Coco Gauff said she brought a new demographic to the sport. The WTA confirmed she is one of the fastest rising players in the rankings. The crowds in Dubai proved that Filipino fans will cross oceans to watch her play. And Eala herself on what it means to finally be seen. So much more positive, how people see me or that people are even seeing me at all. People are seeing her now. The real her. She stood in a Dubai stadium and asked her people how many had been praying for her. She fought through tiebreaks and pressure that breaks players with far more experience. She lost to the world number 4 and walked away writing about love and pride. She is not a character in a clickbait narrative. She is not a vehicle for someone else's advertising revenue. She is not a name on an AI-generated check. She is a person building something real. Match by match, ranking point by ranking point, one brave shot at a time. The fake story got the clicks. The real story got the ranking. And at number 31 in the world, with Indian Wells on the horizon and history already written behind her, the real story is winning. Be the fan who shares the truth.